World Bank largely blames Ghana's central bank for the country's economic woes, citing delays in the introduction of monetary policy measures to deal with the worsening economic indicators. Tonight, we have details of the latest Africa Pulse report that classifies Ghana as a high debt distress country with an end-of-year debt-to-GDP ratio of 104%. Stay with us for details here on Top Story. And Top Story is brought to you by Vodafone. Further together, I am Ernest Minu. Tonight, the World Bank is largely blaming the Bank of Ghana for the current economic downturn. The bank, in its latest Africa Pulse report, the World Bank, among other reasons, cites delay in the introduction of monetary policy measures to deal with the worsening economic indicators, especially inflation. Now, the bank also makes a very gloomy prediction of the country's economy and makes a projection of a debt to GDP ratio of about 104% by end of year. We'll bring you details of that shortly. But as you may know, the cause of our current economic woes has been a political football, with the opposition accusing government of mismanagement. But government has always insisted that the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the adverse effect of the Russia-Ukraine war, is responsible for the downturn. Guess what? The IMF backed this position. Listen to Kristalina Georgieva in an interview with my colleague Benjamin Akato just last month.
First question. I speak on behalf of my institution, the International Monetary Fund. Promises we make, we keep. We made a promise to mobilize resilience and sustainability trust and start with at least 40 billion. We have delivered on this promise, and among the first countries to be beneficiaries will be African countries. And I would call on everyone recognize that it is a promise you must meet for your own people. Climate change is hitting everybody everywhere, and it is undermining global security. To your second question, I am very determined for us to indeed reach an agreement by the end of this year. We started very constructive discussions already, and to the people of Ghana, like everybody on this planet, you have been hurt by exogenous shocks. First the pandemic, then Russia's war in Ukraine. And that we need to realize is not because of bad policies in the country, but because of this combination of shocks. And therefore, we have to support Ghana because you're a member, you're a strong country, you have fantastic people, but also we have to support Ghana because your strength contributes to the strength of your neighbors. It contributes to a stronger world.
We asked for 1.5 billion initially. Now they're asking for 3 billion. Will we get it?
Let's go through the discussions and then we will know.
Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you.
So that's Kristalina Georgieva in that interview with my colleague Benjamin Akato just last month on what may have brought us here. But today, the World Bank, in its latest Africa Pulse report, gives other reasons besides COVID and the Russia-Ukraine war for our woes. My colleague Kofi J, data analyst with our research desk, joins me in the studio with more details on this latest report. It was released just a few hours ago. Kofi, first off, what according to the World Bank has been the central bank's role in bringing us to this difficult situation?
Right, and so according to the report, in Ghana, the central bank, which is the Bank of Ghana, delayed interest rate hikes until the inflation soared from 13.9% in January 2022 to 19.4%, which is currently around 33% in March, followed by a massive depreciation of the cedi.
Okay.
So BOG, they had to increase the rate consecutively from by 250 basis points and 200 basis points in March and May respectively. But the World Bank says these marked rate increases proved to be insufficient in curbing rising prices as inflation reached an all-time high of 33.9% in August.
So the bank's position is that, first of all, these hikes were delayed.
They were delayed.
And eventually when they were introduced, they were insufficient to deal with the issues.
Absolutely.
But then it also goes ahead to look at the Russia-Ukraine war. It mentions it as part of the, the basket of issues that has brought us this far. What does it say about it?
So definitely COVID and Russia-Ukraine war, they were mentioned. So in Ghana, we've been classified as a non-resource rich country. And these countries are disproportionately affected by the Russia-Ukraine conflict, causing rise in import bills. So that's the effect there. So for a country to be resource rich and its rents from natural resources, excluding forests, must exceed about 10% gross of its GDP.
Very interesting details there. But Kofi, they also go ahead to look at, there's a classification now of Ghana as a debt distress economy. And then they go on to make a projection of where our debt to GDP ratio will be by end of year.
So usually when IMF is, classifying us into a certain basket, we see ourselves with countries like Cote d'Ivoire, Kenya, and then Nigeria. But this time around, according to the report, 5 countries will record debt to GDP ratios above 100%. Now listen to the names of the country, Ernest. Eritrea, 234.9%. Sudan, 183.3%. Cape Verde, 147.7%. Ghana, 104.6%. And Mozambique, 102.6%. And this is the first time we find ourselves in a certain category with these countries involved.
And so we are now a debt distress country, according to the IMF.
So Ghana's debt is expected to remain elevated at 99.7% and 101.8% of GDP in 2023 and 2024 respectively.
So even though the World Bank is projecting that we may end up at 104%, it is saying that next year it could actually improve marginally to 99.7% and then get worse in 2024, the election year, and take us to over 100%.
Absolutely.
And I'm wondering what government will make of this classification, because Kofi, we know that they fought the rating agencies as far as the credit worthiness is concerned, sometimes issuing very strongly worded statements and even in their utterances in interviews. The last time the finance minister spoke about this at a news conference, this is what he said.
It's unfortunate in their email to us. They referred to the Bloomberg article that influenced their decision, and so the downgrade has, it sort of further depressed the bonds on the international market, resulting in additional losses to investors. Once we got downgraded to CCC, we are also expecting that economic program that is going to be that is being worked on, which will be the sort of the basis for the IMF discussions, will then help us to come back to some strong matrices to then be able to get sovereign ratings revised over that period.
So that's the finance minister there just about a week ago speaking about the rating agencies and their downgrade of our credit worthiness. For him, that was depressing. I'm wondering what he'll make of this one by the World Bank, and especially at a time when we are in negotiations with the IMF. I'm also wondering how this will affect the timelines that he's given, his expectation of what he's called a historic deal with the IMF at the end of the day. He's hopeful that this will feature in next year's budget, which will be read in November. But Kofi, we had also just some weeks ago a Deputy Finance Minister, Dr. John Kumah, say that our currency was doing well. The World Bank has a verdict on the performance of the Ghana cedi.
Well, in the report, it outlines 5 worst performing currencies on the African continent, and the Ghanaian cedi was number 1. So since the beginning of the year, the cedi has depreciated to the dollar by 60%, followed by South Sudan, the war-torn area.
South Sudan?
Yeah, number 2 with 50.8%. So Ghana is 60, South Sudan is 58.8%. Then there's Sudan, 28.6%. There's Malawi, 25.4%, and there's the CFA franc, which is 13.3%. Now, last year, up until this point, the cedi had actually depreciated less than 2%. So for us to have 60% this year, you know, if you compare 2% to 60%, there's a huge variance between these two figures that we're talking about. So it shows that the cedi is not really faring well.
So the Ghana cedi is the worst performing on the African continent. Kofi, thank you very much. Let's go onto the phone lines now and do some analysis on this, get some education on this rather disturbing report from the World Bank on Ghana's economy. We're joined by Associate Professor at the Business School of the University of Ghana, Professor Lord Mensah. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Top Story. We're joined shortly also by the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Kezia Tuforson. But let me start with you, Professor Lord Mensah. First of all, let's start with some education. If the country's economy has been described as debt distress, what does it mean and what are the consequences?
Yeah, I mean, it's a message come clear to potential investors and then the current investors who have their money with government bills. And it's clear, it tells you that the likelihood to pay this debt, I mean, is very, very less. And so there's a possibility that government may default. And any country that is in distress, you may have to look at, renegotiations on your debt. So it's a signal that has come up. But then we have been talking about our debt exceeding, the percentage that we've been quoting in the country, and then most of the time in our budget readings. Clearly, it tells you that we're not keeping the records of our debt portfolios. And I understand, because we have categorized our debt into two. We have the contingent type of debt that we have, and those are mostly debts that are tied to certain inflows. So when you talk about the Sino-Hydro debt, you talk about the cocoa, bills that government have been issuing over the years. You talk about those debts that are tied to certain inflows. We were not classifying them to be part of our debt. So, but when you lump all this together, it put us in a situation where everything shows that government probably may struggle to pay for its debt. So, being in distress means that the likelihood of default is very high. That's what it means.
And currently, we stand at 78%, in terms of the ratio to our GDP as of June, per the records that we have so far. Is 104% this projection being made by the World Bank not a little exaggerated?
It's not. When you take our budget deficit for the year, you look at this year where we were looking at financing gap of about, 30 billion and over. It tells you that because the financing also come with debt. And so when you put all together and then you add the contingent liabilities, it tells you that, yes, what they're putting out there is a reflective of our debt situation.
And indeed, I'm just looking at the reports right now, and it cites the widening government deficit, the massive weakening of the cedi, and the rising debt service costs. These are the indicators.
Sure.
How will this affect our negotiations with the IMF, and especially when the finance minister is very optimistic that we're going to cut a deal before the end of year, so that he can actually feature that in the budget for next year? Does this complicate the negotiations further?
Well, looking at the situation, it may complicate the negotiations, but then possibly the conditions that we may get this time round, for engaging with IMF may be stricter compared to the earlier ones that we visited IMF. Because we never visited IMF with this kind of threshold of debt to GDP. And so if you look at this particular visit to IMF, it will come as a unique, as the finance minister has been quoting, it will be a historical visit to IMF. And at the end of the day, it will call for, different conditions altogether, as we know already.
Professor Lord Mensah, kindly hold the line for me. We're joined by the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Dr. Kezia Tuforson. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Top Story. Your initial reaction to this latest report by the World Bank?
Thank you very much. My brother, I don't think the World Bank has said anything new. This is known to some of us. The only difference is that the public is not paying attention to what the minority is saying and sometimes what the civil society is saying. Because I have come out earlier, in about 2-3 weeks ago, to say that our debt levels is actually in excess of 100% of our GDP. At that point, people felt that we are just saying this because we are saying it's sick. But let me make a point. The point that the World Bank has simply made is that Ghana's debt servicing is at a point that default is imminent. It is a point that there is a little prospect of recovery. And so therefore, if you are classified as such, number one, your debt service to tax revenue obligation ratio is shooting to about 90%. What this simply means is that you are using about 90% of your tax revenue to service your debt. That alone tells you that your country is insolvent. Number two, when your debt is hitting in excess of 104% of your GDP, what you should understand is that when some countries has 104% of GDP, you can't compare them together because obviously some can carry it, others cannot carry it. And to carry such a debt is the debt service to tax revenue that shows your ability to pay. Ghana does not have the ability to pay at this moment. And so it is important for us to acknowledge that where we are, the country is in deep trouble. And there's the need for us to confront it as such. I do not think that they've said something new. It's something that is known to us. Unfortunately, the government is not accepting this. All what they always say is that it is not my fault, it is Bloomberg's fault, it is NDC's fault, it's the minority's fault, and always it's not me, and it is somebody behind the tree. That attitude is not helping, unfortunately. They are still saying the debt to GDP as such last month is 78%. I disagree, because remember, this amount excludes the 22 billion the central bank has given to them. This amount excludes, number one, Get Fund bond that they issued called DACHI. This amount excludes Sino Hydro loan. This amount excludes ESLA bond and then a growth fund bond. If you add all of this together and then look at the actual GDP for the second quarter of the year, estimated GDP for the second quarter, it's more than 100%. So the World Bank is just correct. They've just had it correct. What the central bank seeks to do is that they are using debt, actual debt, excluding all the debt that I've mentioned, including the money that they have given to the government. They call it overdraft. Including all of them, they have decided to exclude it and then look at that debt to compare it with projected GDP for the year 2022 December. So they are not comparing like with like, and that is why you see 78%. That is just not correct.
And we'll be talking more.
Our actual debt to GDP is in excess of 100%. Let's live with it.
And we'll be talking more about the role of the central bank in all of this, because that is also at the heart of the report released by the World Bank. But that situation and the projections being made puts us in a very desperate situation. And even though the IMF may not be the solution, we definitely need it to come very early. I'm learning that the Finance Committee of Parliament was scheduled to meet with the negotiation team today. I'm wondering if these issues came up, especially with the debt restructuring, and how it's going to affect our own expectation of meeting or of getting a deal.
It's correct. I'm just coming from a meeting where the Finance Committee of Parliament engaged with the IMF. Honestly, You know, the IMF is a diplomatic institution, so they won't say it as it is. We have to wait for their report, and then we'll be able to know the details. But one thing that came out instructively is the fact that they have not concluded the DSA. You see, the debt stock is different from the debt sustainability analysis. The two are not the same. The stock, if it is 104% of GDP, is not the same as DSA. DSA includes future policies of the administration, and so they will need to conclude it. They said that they are bringing their 2 weeks mission to an end, so they will go to Washington, and obviously the government will go and they will continue the discussion to conclude the DSA. I was particularly concerned because our minister had informed us that obviously they intend to have a program by end year. This, for me, is contingent on a decision being made as to whether our debt is sustainable or not. As we speak, we are all aware that the IMF will not lend to a country that has an unsustainable debt. I'm convinced that Ghana's debt, as we speak, is not sustainable. But obviously, I will have to wait for the IMF to make an official pronouncement, and obviously the actions that the government will have to take. Whether we like it or not, that decision will be made at some point. The question is when. But I'm saying that the earlier, the better. So it is up to the government to come clean on the matter, for all of us to have a national dialogue and to embrace the situation early and obviously confront it as such. Any attempt to propose some Mickey Mouse kind of analysis to hide the actual feeling, my brother, if you are sick and you have to take injection for you to get well, it is for you to tell your doctor that this is my entire problem. Ghana must come clean. We have to come clean as to what we are hiding in the cupboard, what we are hiding under the sofa. We need to bring all of this out, and for IMF to make the proper diagnosis and give us the actual medicine that will solve the problem, obviously with the help of government.
And you mentioned the central bank. In this report by the World Bank, and this just will be the final lap, we have always talked about the lack of fiscal discipline on the part of government as one of the major factors that has brought us to the deep waters we find ourselves in right now. But here we have a report from the bank, from the World Bank, blaming the central bank for, delaying in introducing monetary policies to address the issues, inflation, the depreciation of the currency. What is your take on this? Your reaction to this?
I have maintained that our monetary policy committee has been lazy. They have been lazy, and they have also not been forthcoming with actions that they have to take.
But we know that they have had to meet a number of times more than they should because of the situation. For instance, a few months ago, they met earlier than they should because of the increase in inflation. They've increased the basis point by over 200%. I mean, it comes to me as a surprise.
Brother, do you know why? Number one, they've been very reactive. Why do you do a monetary policy committee, conduct a monetary policy committee, fail to hike rate when everybody is pointing to a possibility of hiking rate, where everyone, even any other person who is not a monetarist, will tell you that there is a need for you to hike rate and to deal with the inflation as early as possible. You decide to hike it, you decide not to hike it, go home and sleep. When the situation gets worse and you call for an emergency monetary policy committee, to do what? It is reactive. They should have acted way ahead. And I was also surprised that recently, instead of them taking a decision, they decided to postpone the decision, only for them to tell us, all of us as a country, that because of the IMF visit, they will have to wait, and then when the IMF is done, before they will take a decision on their monetary policy. But let me tell you, this kind of central bank cannot absorb themselves from the problems that we have now, because they are encouraging the government on fiscal dominance. When the same people are talking about fiscal dominance, they are the very ones that are lending money to the government. They are the very ones that are printing money for the government. They are the very ones that are creating the inflation. You can't tell me the inflation that we are seeing is coming from Ukraine. No. The inflation that we are seeing is coming from the attitude of the central bank. And so the central bank must correct same. So I'm happy that the World Bank report is actually making this point. And let the central bank be aware that, in fact, Yes, the fiscal is the main problem, but their action and inaction also is contributing to the mess that we are seeing. I heard you talk about the fact that our situation is desperate. It's not desperate. Our situation is sorry. I am worried as a Ghanaian. Our situation is bad. But you see, I am more worried because the people that has to take the action, the Bank of Ghana, the Monetary Policy Committee, in fact, the Economic Management Team headed by the Vice President and the Ministry of Finance are failing to take the required dose that will heal the problems. So the problem is getting worse by the day.
Well, Dr. Jefferson, that's all time will allow us for now. I'm really grateful that you could join us. I just want to pick the thoughts of Professor Lord Mensah on this issue of the central bank and the role that they have played in this, as highlighted by the World Bank report. Professor Lord Mensah, I mean, you have had cause to say that we need to take our fiscal discipline serious, and you've actually said that the central bank was at the mercy of the actions of the executive. Today, fingers are being pointed at them.
Yes, I mean, that is exactly on point. Because over the years, we know very well that the policy rate has gotten to a threshold where it's not making impact on inflation. It's not making impact on exchange rate. But then also, we see, the central bank lending to the government in an open form without restricting the government where the monies that are being lended to them are supposed to go. Because at the time that possibly the central bank was lending to the government, that's about 22 billion. I mean, we had food inflation being the top of all the inflation, indicators that we're looking at. But then did the central bank restrict the government to spend in such a way that we can get food on the market? Possibly, if food is stuck in the hinterland, we can find a way to convey those food. Was the government going to spend in that direction? No. They lended to the government in an open form. So obviously, they are part of the blame. In a way, they should help the government to control, the fiscal side of our budget.
Thank you very much. That's Professor Lord Mensah, economist at the University of Ghana Business School. And we did reach out to government for its reaction to this latest report by the World Bank, but we did not get anyone to speak to it. When we do, we'll bring you that interview. That's it for Top Story, brought to you by Vodafone. Further together, I'm Ernest Minu. News Night with MFR Powers next after these messages.
Charlie, some things can be very painful, like hitting your toe against the corner of a table. Or a failed cash transaction because of insufficient funds. But that's where Vodafone Cash Overdraft will help you shop life regardless. Vodafone Cash Overdraft is the latest innovation that adds to your Vodafone Cash wallet when your balance is not enough to pay for your Vodafone transactions. Just dial *110#, select option 5 to opt in. Now, let's say you won't buy 50 cedis monthly data, where you get only 30 cedis for your Vodafone Cash wallet. You will get a notification saying you can access additional funds to complete your transaction. You accept the offer, done. Overdraft. Oh, say yeah.
Oh, yeah. The new Vodafone Cash Overdraft service allows you to access additional funds to complete your Vodafone Cash transaction. Be it paying for your broadband subscription, buying airtime or mobile data, or even sending money. Terms and conditions apply.
Vodafone.
If I say EGL Bazaar, say it be Bazaar. Electroland Ghana Limited is running a tech sale all you can grab bazaar. Items are a mixture of brand new, slightly used, crashed, showroom display, repaired and dented. Get up to 80% off. EGL Bazaar runs from Friday to Sunday. That is 7th, 8th and 9th October from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. Location, Coca-Cola Roundabout, Spintex. Satisfy your tech hunger with products from NASCO, Samsung, Media, Toshiba and more. Samsung television at 1,199 Ghana City. Grab a NASCO top load washing machine 6 kg, 1,299 Ghana City. Media toaster 399 Ghana City. Grab for yourself smartphones, accessories, candlelights, washing machines, fridges, ovens, gas stoves, vacuum cleaner, dispenser. Quickly jot down the numbers. Call 0242 439 437.
EGL, home of electronics and appliances.
I tell you what's up, no good in done. Your hustle, I cry about Charlie. I tell you what's up, enjoy the ride. With contactless, have to pay easy and secure. Reliable.
I'm feeling good in my soul.
Feeling good in my soul.
One tap away with my Visa card.
Just a tap away.
Every transaction a Samsung.
Everything a Samsung.
I know they
to pay with your Visa card. It's fast, easy, reliable, and secure. Visa, everywhere you want to be.
At Enterprise Life, it's possible to live your best life. Ladies, enjoy cover for your lifestyle with Bloom. Life insurance for today's woman. Families, let's safeguard your well-being with a family income security plan because family matters. And for you, live freely with our funeral finance plan unlimited with no restrictions, no limits as you cover your loved ones and yourself. WhatsApp us on 0554 001 924 or call 0307 084 444 for your solution.
Enterprise, your advantage.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. Tonight, 350 persons rescued, scores of affected people hungry, and families seeking shelter in congested structures as flood waters render part of South in Accra inaccessible.
The cases all here had to be referred. Immediately we saw the water coming in yesterday. They referred the cases to Akawi and...
We have rescued around 350 people.
We hear from NADMO as its preliminary investigations trace the flooding on the blockage of estuaries to allow spillover waters enter the sea. Also tonight.
You are my representatives. It cannot be that the president at the national level is waging a war against Galamsey and you at the local level, my representatives, are compromising that fight. That cannot work. I'm not here to threaten anybody, but I want you to know that this is a struggle that I take very seriously, and I will not be in a position to protect anybody.
President Akufo-Addo vows to deal with persons within his government found complicit in illegal mining as he admits the Galamsey fight has yielded no results while courting the support of traditional rulers to refocus the fight.
I am prepared to put my presidency on the line on this matter. It has not been popular and we have not got the immediate results that I was looking for. Putting my presidency on the line in the fight against Galamsey was neither bombast nor recklessness.
We have details from the president's meeting with the chiefs and MMDCs as he calls for the non-politicization of the fight.
To seek your assistance to take partisan political interests out of the fight against Galamsey. It can only succeed if it is a truly national battle, which no one seeks to exploit for political gain, as we saw in the last election.
Minority sounds alarm about massive smuggling of Ghana's cocoa to neighboring Ivory Coast if producer prices are not raised as they pile pressure on government to increase the prices.
After these uncertainties, government should not announce any price below 1,000 Ghana cedis per bag. Let me caution that if this government fails to raise cocoa prices, it could trigger massive smuggling.
And there's the latest on that.
Well, in business, MFA government has increased cocoa prices by 21% to hit 800 Ghana cedis per 64 kilo bag, and it will be starting from October 14 this year.
We have details of that, and later, what does breast sucking and breast cancer have in common, and women have in common?
Sucking the breast is also very important. It helps. I keep telling people that when it comes to breast sucking, men are good at it because they suck breast right from ngeh to when they die.
We'll get some answers from a doctor who is urging men to suck a breast within October as part of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That and more in tonight's edition of Newsnight. Please do all to join me via WhatsApp is 055 11 997. I am MFA Pao, and this is your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. We start from the South municipality of the Greater Accra region, where scores of residents displaced by floodwaters say they have run out of food supply. Health facilities have also temporarily suspended services, with schools closed after areas like Oblogo, Tetegu and Ashalaja were rendered inaccessible. Specialized security personnel made up of the Marine Police, the Military Fire Service and others have been on the ground since yesterday, rescuing those trapped in their homes and on rooftops. Some of the victims who spoke with Joy News say they have no food.
Zaman for so muko form free we set eba say yen na want to ani bia ni ono bia fa dan bia plan say yen bia fa ton and plan come di wa
I say they come aba nanso asu ye bobo mu kakakakra nso no ba say they ni bebi akọ bebi ayenya ye adwuma kakakakra on bebi asay amale 91 na nso no ba say we cry do suche 91 nti esra ban so mu beboa ise omo no yenim say obi aka onso no ma na ti say nyame omo.
Some residents there, some speaking in Chi and also in Ga, mentioning that they've run out of food and the rescue operation still on. What they need now is for government to come to their aid. Others also say they were not given prior notice of the flooding and had to seek refuge with family and friends. Listen.
I live down there.
Where are you going right now?
I'm going to Dansuma.
Dansuma, what are you going to do there?
That's where I'm going to live at the moment because my house is flooded. I mean, flooded. Yeah, you should have been there and see how the place is. I mean, I went last night, isn't it? And then I came to see if everything, maybe something has, improved. But when I came, it's even worse. Yeah. So I have to go and, merge in my mom's house, and then, yeah.
Did you manage to salvage anything?
No. All my goods is, all my goods is spoiled.
Goods. You talk about goods. So
my household, everything is spoiled. You should have come there and see yourself.
We'll be going there. Yesterday we had the help of the.
It's written Kingdom Supermarket in front of my house.
Okay, with a supermarket there.
Yeah.
And everything has been destroyed.
Everything has been destroyed. So what can we do? I mean, it looks like there's something they should have prevented. But they didn't do it, so I don't know.
Enough warning, then you can pack some of your...
Yeah, enough warning, yeah. Because, how could this be happening like this? I mean, I don't know. I just moved to Ghana. Honestly, I just moved to Ghana like a year ago, but this doesn't look promising. It doesn't look promising.
A resident there interacting with my colleague Maxo Agbagba. And we know that some hospitals in the area had referred patients to nearby facilities after health posts were also flooded. Maxo will join me with the very latest on this, but here's what he found with the situation when it comes to the hospitals.
This is the first time. Okay. Yes. So this facility has been here for some time now, and we have never experienced anything like this. Normally, when rain falls, you get the gutters choked and all that. But water coming into the facility, this is the first time. We've never seen it like this. We've never seen coming in, it gets your knee. So yeah, to the knee level. So it's really very, very, very sad and all that. So the cases all here had to be referred. Immediately we saw the water coming in yesterday. They referred the cases to Akawi and the other facility. Yeah. So currently there's no one in the facility. Okay. Yes.
When do you envisage that you're going to reopen this facility?
For now, we don't know.
For now, we don't know. We can't tell.
Maxwell Agbagba has been in the area since yesterday, still there for us, and joins us on the line with the very latest in the area. Maxwell, you have some good news to give us tonight?
Well, unfortunately, we still do not have any good news. Is that as night falls, we've seen scores of people heading towards the Tetiku bus stop and many others with their backpacks. Some of them we've been interacting with said they came back this morning to try and see if they could dry their beddings and mattresses, but the flood water is yet to subside. What it means is that they will have to spend another night outside their homes. Many of the hotels we've been visiting at Tetegu, Wager Choice, Sampa Valley, STC, and all the communities affected by this flood water, all of them have been fully booked. In fact, some of the managers we've been speaking to tell us that some of the people who tried to check in later in the evening, that was yesterday, they couldn't, and they had to sleep in chairs, and they had to sleep. Some of them slept on the bathroom. Some of them who will be speaking
The call has been put on hold. Please wait.
2 hours after they were displaced by the floods, they've not received any relief items from NADMO. And all they need now, they tell us that they need mattresses because the mattresses were swept away by the flood. Another issue here is the darkness that has engulfed these affected communities. There are some guidelines, though, you can see that because electricity wires, huge pylons, electricity pylons, some of them partially submerged in water. In fact, I saw quite a number of ECG transformers in the water. What it means is that if power supply is restored anytime soon, there could be danger. So for over 24 hours, residents in these affected communities do not have electricity. And this is partly affecting businesses in the area. A woman I interacted with earlier today told me about her cold store business and how she had to dispose of frozen chicken and fish worth 3,000 Ghana cedis. So it's getting dark. Electricity power is not going to be restored anytime soon. Many of the people I'm seeing around here carrying backpacks, moving to their family members and relatives.
Well, yesterday, Maxwell, whilst watching the live footage and up until this morning, I saw that there were some people in there and the water was up to their necks. Situation today, still the same? Water still neck high?
Still very high. In fact, this morning when I visited the Tetegu Community Hospital, I'm more than 5 feet tall, but I had a water level reaching my thighs. Yeah, I had a boot on, but it was totally covered, by the water. And if you go a bit closer to the ocean, persons who live very close to the dam, many of them are still affected. And in fact, we had the Navy, we have personnel from the Marine Police today on the ground who had to deploy their boats. In fact, I saw some aged women, about 5 of them, who were put in the boat, and then when they got a bit to the island, they had to carry them all the way into a vehicle. A 9-month-old baby carried by the mother, and they were actually rescued from their homes because they told us that they couldn't move from their homes to any island. So they had to wait today for the Navy, for NADMO, and they had to use boats to access where they are.
Okay.
So,
but I heard some of the residents tell you that they were not giving any prior notification about this particular spillage of the Wager Dam. How widespread is this particular concern that has been raised?
True. Many of them I've been speaking to tell me that they did not hear any information about a possible spillage of the excess water from the dam. In fact, the assembly man for the Tetegu electoral area, I spoke to him. He said they did not get any indication from the Ghana Water Company Limited and the NADMO that they were going to open the spillway, and that many of them were caught off guard. They really did not know what was happening. They tell me that if they had prior information, they would have moved to dry land. They would have tried carrying some of their very expensive properties to dry land, but they were caught unaware. Some of them tell me that they were actually at work when they got the information, and when they saw the footage on Joy News and saw how flooded their homes were, that was the point that they got to know that something terrible was happening in the family.
Well, Maxwell, thank you very much. Fantastic reporting there from when this incident happened. But you can see some of the footages that Maxwell and the team, drone footages, and also all the way to the rescue operations, all there on our Facebook pages, Joy 99.7 FM. You can catch that. Also, we've been speaking to the Municipal Chief Executive for the adjoining Wager Gbawe Municipality, Patrick Kumo. He told Joy News the flooding is as a result of the Wager Dam spillage, which he says is continuing.
Yes, it's still happening. As in the morning, as I checked, they were spilling at around about 6 feet per gate. That is a huge volume that is being discharged. And I believe it is very necessary because we all want to maintain the integrity of the dam. We're getting reports that the eastern region is reducing a bit. So I believe by close of tomorrow, we should have the levels coming down a bit. And so far, with the works that have been done at the both estuaries, we believe that a lot more water will be taken out of the system so that people can return to normal living.
Well, thankfully, we've been joined on the phone by Mr. Amoyate. He's head of Inspectorate Division at NADMO. We're grateful for your time here on Newsnight, sir. So paint a picture to us, really, tonight with the rescue operations, amongst others, because we've been hearing from some residents who say they've run out of food and some are still being trapped in their homes. Tell us about the mission so far.
Yeah, thank you, and good evening to your listeners. In all this, let me start with the good news first. And the good news is that the water levels are going down because of the work that has been done on the estuary. The estuary has been opened up and widened, so a lot more water is flowing into the sea and leaving the community. And then we expect that the water by close of day tonight, tomorrow, the water levels should retreat from all the communities. This situation is unprecedented because of the heavy rain coming up from upstream. And so there's too much water flowing into the Wager Dam, which is on the Densu River. So with too much water, the integrity of the dam needs to be protected by spilling excess water. So this is as a result of the excess water that is being spilled. It has aggravated the situation as the low-lying areas along the catchment area of the Densu River. That is what has happened. NADMO deployed men, we had the 48 engineers, the Marine Police, Ghana Navy, were all attending to people trapped. So there were a lot of distress calls coming in.
Okay, but I know that as part of your work as NADMO, at least warning signs or signals are also given when we know. You mentioned that the dam, the Wager Dam, had to be spilled at some point because of the heavy rains on the Densu, amongst others. But it appears that speaking to residents, they say they were not giving any prior notification. No warnings, however, were given before the spillage.
It was done. It went into the community. If some people missed it, then that's unfortunate. But messages were sent out that the dam, like I said, this is unprecedented.
Messages were sent to all the areas. Is that what you're saying? Messages were sent to the communities. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. But what I'm adding is that this situation is unprecedented. That the levels that we are spilling now, is different from the levels that have been spilled because of the large amount of water that was flowing into the dam. So it's a little bit unprecedented. So previously, areas which were not inundated have been inundated. That is different. But the messages went out. That is why men were positioned, and as when we received the distress calls, we moved into rescue people. The good thing also with the rescue mission is that most of the people we rescued, there were family and friends ready to take them in. So it's not like people were rescued and they were left in the streets. No, people were rescued and then they are ready to board car to the nearest family members' residence. So most of the people rescued, they didn't stay there.
Ms. Ayate, please, I'll plead with you to reposition yourself. It's a bit difficult hearing you at some point. But let me find out if you have figures, especially as to how many persons you've been able to rescue, and if you can add, relief items. Have you been able to provide that for these persons that you've rescued?
Our immediate situation is the rescuing the people who are trapped. And as the last... I don't know what has happened within the last 12 months, but as about 500 people have been rescued. As for the last information I had, about 500 people have been rescued from Tetegu, White Falls, Sampa Valley, all in that area. And then the assessment is ongoing, and very soon the needful will be done. Who deserves what? Who needs what? will be sorted out.
And are you hoping to rescue more? Do we have people still trapped?
With the water levels receding, I don't expect that those who are trapped because there's too much water and the water is now receding.
Okay.
So that is the good news, that the water is receding. But our men are still on standby activity. If there's any distress, we will respond to it.
Ms. Ayate, we are grateful. Let me bring in the Ghana Water Company Limited also on this, because they've been spilling in the Wager Dam for some time now because of the heavy rains, amongst others. Mr. Salimate, thank you very much for your time here on Newsnight. Would you be able to say if you've been able to save the dam?
Yes, we are still spilling. As I speak, the level is around 48.6 feet, which means that we still need to go down to around 46.5 before we can stop the spillage, or before we can minimize the spillage.
And from your estimation,
so the dam, as I speak, is still safe, because at least we are spilling. We've opened the gates and we are spilling. So pressure on the dam is not too much, and we hope that there wouldn't be any eventuality. So we are monitoring. Yeah, continuously.
And how long are you hoping to be spilling till you get to the minimum that you're looking for?
It becomes very difficult for me to say anything, because it would depend on inflows. So if there are more rains upstream, then it means we still have to continue spilling and to safeguard the dam. So we can't give a definite date, because we don't have meteorological information on whether there will be more torrential rains or not. But what we know tentatively now is that there will be more rains. But as to whether there will be this torrential rains to cause this havoc, we wouldn't be able to tell. But for now, we are working on saving the dam and then saving those who are living downstream as well.
Well, saving the dam may be the priority of the Ghana Water Company Limited right now, but the concern for many of the residents...
Not only saving the dam, but saving those who are living downstream the dam. Because we are spilling because we want to save them. If we don't spill and the dam is to collapse, this is going to wipe all of them away. They wouldn't have the luxury of taking out their stuff and evacuating the place.
Okay.
So in spilling the dam, we are saving them as well.
But in saving them, some of them who've been interacting with my colleague Masola Gbagba, for instance, we've been hearing from the assemblyman, amongst others, saying that you embarked on such a huge operation, spilling through about 4 spillways without any prior notification to them.
I think this information is absolutely false. And the Municipal Assembly alluded to it, that we have informed them. We have informed all assemblymen, all the chiefs, all opinion leaders, and even the people living within the community. And in fact, you also will agree with me that on annual basis, we issue statements. And we have done so this year in May. We have been spilling since May. Okay? And with any time we educate them in that area, we tell them of the dangers involved. Because apart from we spilling, okay, anything at all can happen. For instance, if in the middle, the place is also an earthquake zone. So if in the middle of the night there's an earthquake and the dam is to collapse, would you have the luxury of going around to tell the people that this is what is happening? No, it will just happen. So it is.
But I'm not sure the spilling through 4 gates happened suddenly. I'm sure you planned it. You started it. You mentioned that you did it in May, but we only saw a statement on Monday from you that you had started spilling. We could have at least got that statement before the spilling started.
On Monday said that there's spill of the region, but we started in May. We haven't stopped spilling since we started in May. We haven't stopped.
All 4 gates. All 4 gates since May.
We keep alternating and altering and the school gates. So when there are more inflows, we add additional gates, or we open some of the gates a bit higher. Currently, we are spilling 4 gates at 6 feet. Okay, so there are certain times that we spill a gate, 1 gate or 2 gates at let's say 6 or let's say 12 feet. So depending on the inflows and how we can manage the levels in the dam. Okay, so anything can happen at any time. There's been times where we open all 5 gates at even 12 feet. Okay, so this is not the first step. The main problem, as I see it, is the construction of buildings in the buffer zone and in the course of the river. because water finds its own level, and I keep saying this all the time. So if you hinder the water from flowing, the water will divert into other areas, and that is why we see the challenge now.
Okay. Ms. Amate, we are grateful. And in all this, water supply to your customers will not be interrupted?
Not at all, because we are still abstracting water from the dam, and our equipment are functioning effectively. So we are supplying water to everyone.
We are grateful. That's Stanley Mate. He's a communications manager for the Ghana Water Company Limited. We'll be going for business shortly here on Newsnight, also getting ready for the UEFA Champions League game tonight. But President Akufo-Addo has vowed to deal with persons within his government found complicit in illegal mining activities. He's also admitted that Ghana's fight against illegal mining has so far yielded no results. The president made a difficult pledge of putting his presidency on the line, but still the fight has not been won. The situation has only gotten worse. More water bodies have since been polluted and rendered useless, while farmers have either been cut off or turned into illegal mining sites. This month, as part of our hashtag No to Galamsey, we've told stories of the devastating impact of illegal mining to Ghana's God-given natural resources, such as what you're about to hear, put together by my colleague Erastus Asaridonko, titled Destruction for Gold.
Mining can create jobs, mining can improve livelihoods, and mining can generate wealth. But it cannot and must not do so at the expense of damaging the very environment that produces the riches.
Nobody provides a license for you to mine in a water body. It doesn't happen in Ghana.
When I see these things, I ask myself, who are behind this? I can't buy excavator, but the ministers and the MPs, you can do that. So we are saying, I
am prepared to put my presidency on the line on this matter.
You send soldiers after the young people. That is not the way to go.
Galamsey them have you Hanichum Yasa. A mobile 30% in Boma Galamsey. So, Nanabi out to be our child as you are the Galamsey. You was off who ground for the fire.
Destruction for gold.
In 2017, the Ghana Water Resources Commission stated that about 60% of the country's water bodies were polluted. The acceptable turbidity value for drinking water is 5 nephelometric turbidity unit (NTU), while values of 80 to 150 NTU are acceptable for other water users as appropriate. The Tano River flows 400 kilometers from Techiman in the Bono East region. The once clean fish-laden water source has now turned milky brown with little sign of life. We took a trip to Samreboy in the western region of Ghana to investigate the source of its pollution. Michael Inyebribi Tanoe was named after this river. He has been fishing here for about 40 years now.
I used to start from 6 o'clock in the evening to early in the morning, night time. I'll keep on fishing, and then during the day I have to sell the fish.
After hours of fishing today, he only caught few fishes.
This morning, the fish that I got are this. Before, the same amount of net I'm using, I can get a fish almost a basket full, very short and nice. But nowadays, the fish has become long, and the fin have been changed as if they have designed it.
Recent events, he says, have changed the course of the river and the life in it.
Because it's very, very dirty, and the river meandering to the nature one has been changed. Now the river boundaries are widened.
Well, so that's the devastation of illegal mining. And No to Galamsey, the hashtag is still on, that you can contribute to it. You heard Tanoy talking about even the impact on the kind of fish that they're getting from these river bodies and we consuming it. Well, President Akufo-Addo, together with his sector ministers, are in the Ashanti region courting the support of the National House of Chiefs and MMDCs. He first admitted that the role played by the chieftaincy institution in times past yielded significant results, hence the need for deeper collaboration between the chiefs and government to fight the menace. He admits we've lost the fight against Galamsey, and the only way to win a renewed fight is to eschew partisanship from the menace that is posing an existential threat to the country.
Since I took office on 7th January 2017, nearly 6 years ago, I have made it a central feature of my presidency to lead in the efforts to rid our country of this menace, which we all now call Galamsey. Indeed, it was an important aspect of my inaugural address of that day. It has not been easy, it has not been popular, and we have not got the immediate results that I was looking for. Indeed, in the last elections of 2020, my stance on the issue cost my party and I significant losses in the mining communities. It turned out that my statement that I was putting my presidency on the line in the fight against Galamsey was neither bombast nor recklessness. It was the simple truth. We have tried many initiatives, including that of the community mining scheme and the establishment of a new legal regime for dealing with the perpetrators of this phenomenon, which has imposed severe sanctions on those Ghanaians and foreigners convicted of illegal mining. Still, we have not won the fight. It is obvious that if we are to win the fight, you and I have to take the lead to collaborate closely. But one of the most significant, which I have to state now, is to seek your assistance to take partisan political interests out of the fight against Galamsey. It can only succeed if it is a truly national battle, which no one seeks to exploit for political gain, as we saw in the last election. The progress of our country depends on all of us, all citizens of Ghana, all fellow Ghanaians, pulling together to defeat this existential threat to our future. I've said it before, we are not against mining, but we cannot accept mining in a manner that risks destroying our country.
Let's go live to the Ashanti region now, where my colleague Nanaya Ojima has been monitoring the president's meeting with the MMDCs and also after that meeting with the traditional rulers. Nanaya, so let's start with the president's vow to deal with those within his closet believed to be engaging in Galamsey.
So the president meeting the MMDCs in Kumasi, that's MMDCs in areas that is affected by illegal mining. The president once again reiterated his commitment towards dealing with this illegal mining issue. And therefore, whoever represents him in the various municipalities and also districts should do well to help him or join the cause in fighting against illegal mining.
I'm determined, come what may, to continue this fight against Galamsey. But to be able to get there, we have to find the people who are responsible, gather the evidence against them, and bring them to court. You are my representatives. It cannot be that the president at the national level is waging a war against Galamsey, and you at the local level, my representatives, are compromising that fight. That cannot work. I'm not here to threaten anybody, but I want you to know that this is a struggle that I take very seriously, and I will not be in a position to protect anybody.
Sorry for cutting in there, Nanaya, but the president also cited the example of the DCE for Busome Ferhu. Tell us more about his case.
So according to the president, there are reports that Mr. Yaudanso is involved in illegal mining, and he has been invited to come over to Accra and explain what his side of the story to the president and the ministers who are involved in the fight against illegal mining. But due to the demise of his wife, he has been excused for some time. But after he mourns the wife, the president will be expecting him to come over and explain his involvement in the illegal mining issue.
What happens in Ghana is that there are accusations are made against people en blanc, in gros, MMDC. I don't operate with that. I don't operate with rumors. I'm a lawyer. So I'll always be dealing with facts. When the facts are brought, you will be invited to comment on it. Your colleague in Busomefrel, there have been public accusations about his involvement. He's been summoned by the Minister for Local Government to come and answer. Unfortunately for him, it has coincided with the death of his wife. So he has not been able to respond. But when the 1 week celebration is over, he will have to respond. And depending on the quality of his response, we will decide what the future.
Okay, so that's President Akufo-Addo earlier today. Let me bring in Kwekwa Ferry. He's with WACAM, joining us on the line. We are grateful, Mr. Ferry. So you've been monitoring the president's meetings, first with the National House of Chiefs and then with the MMDCEs, vowing that nobody will be protected. Also, he admits that we may have lost the first fight. But with all that you've seen today, you think this is the way to go? We are on our way to winning this fight?
Well, good evening, and to our listeners as well. Yes, I do believe that there is a need for the country to really take a respectful look at the effects of the menace. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Ferry, we can hear you.
Yes. There's a need for us to really take a retrospective look at this issue of the menace on the country. And for the president to admit that, yes, to some extent, we have failed in our fight to address the issue. And I believe that, first of all, it's the right approach to do, because we cannot lie to ourselves that our water bodies are being polluted, our forest bodies are being attacked by these illegal mining activities and also surface mining activities. Issues of people whose rights are being violated are all issues which are associated with these mining activities. So yes, for us to accept that to a large extent we have really not been able to address the issue, it's something which, yes, called for, and there is a need for us to have a way forward as to it. But for me, the issue is, what are some of the issues that has brought us to this state? And it's pressing to point out that in the president's speech, he indicated that they have outlined and provided stiffer punishment to deter people from going into the informal parts of these activities. However, I think that's the mistake that we've made as a state. We've, for a long period of time, thought that the use of stiffer punishment as a quick response to address the issue would always address the problem. If we look at the number of amendments that we've had in the provisions of the Act on the small scale side, they have all been geared towards more of stiffer punishment. But the reality as of now has made it clear to us that the use of this amending the law to provide stiffer punishment as a means of addressing the problem is not a quick fix problem to the issue. And there's a need for us to go deeper. For example, the Auditor General in his report 2021 did make or indict the Environmental Protection Agency and the Minerals Commission of failing to regulate and monitor the small-scale mining sector very well. And that mining companies have been given licenses to operate even without submitting operating plans. Others have even been allowed to operate without posting reclamation bonds. And in general, the regulation of the sector by the institutions who have been mandated or given the powers to do so has, to a large extent, been very symbolic.
Okay.
And that has been a major contributor to the challenges that we do have.
Mr. Ferry, we're grateful for your time. This is not the last we're going to hear about this particular fight and the renewed fight that the president has been talking about. But we'll go for business here with George Rafi. When we return later, we are asking, what does breast sucking and breast cancer in women have in common?
Sucking the breast is also very important. It helps. I keep telling people that when it comes to breast sucking, men are good at it because they suck breast right from ngeh to when they die.
We'll get some answers from a doctor who is urging men to suck breast within October as part of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And just see the smile on George Yafi's face. Really, like, what is it with men and breast? Like,
every child likes breast.
Are you a child?
Breast.
Are you a
It's
child?
very, very necessary.
Are you a child?
Start at a younger age, and still you grow up loving your mother's breast.
They say it's newborn to 6 months or maybe a year
Yeah, but
maximum.
this is something that you grew on, so you obviously love it and like it.
You have to die on it.
Not necessarily, but sucking is very good. I mean, the breast.
Okay, we'll talk about it more. As a baby, okay, but not for adults. You mean?
It can be replaced when you are not in that lactating mood as well.
You stick to
so
business.
The men will take over when the baby is not there.
Oh, okay. Stick to
because
business.
It
when we
helps
finish.
with the cancer, right? The breast cancer management.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I'm sure there are other ways by just doing them, checking and others.
And you
Must
can
it
check, but also feel it that it's not there. That thing is not inside.
Okay, you do business. When we finish,
all right,
we'll
coming up in business, government has increased the cocoa price by 21% to reach 800 Ghana cedis per 64 kilo bag. And World Bank pegs cedi's rate of depreciation at 60% as it pushes for more targeted policy rate to check inflation and help stabilize the Ghana cedi. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business, Ghana Pay and Allianz Life.
The other day, I visited Kweku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,
it's MTN Business Broadband. In this fast-paced environment, we need fast and reliable internet to support all business types. No laggy online meetings, great download and upload speeds, impeccable business management systems, all inclusive. I mean, you can have it all.
Shout! I signed on immediately.
To enable your business stay ahead and stay connected, make sure you're signed on to the best internet made just for businesses. MTN Business Broadband. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh and manage your account on my MTN app. Call 0244 308 111 for more information.
MTN.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kingdom Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom. And my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Businesses know how important it is to create a productive and supportive working environment by investing in employees' health. With a leading international track record, Apex Health Insurance is licensed to provide medical insurance services to corporate organizations and SMEs. We also have international LH Blue cover and TPAs to cushion you. Multinational companies, factories, and government agencies, focus on your business while Apex Insurance takes care of your health. Visit Apex Health Insurance office at Zion House, Boundary Road, Shiashi, Kumasi, opposite Prempeh College, Sofo Line, and Takrady Market Circle. For further inquiries, call 0501 562 962 or 0501 552 495. Apex Health, your preferred health insurer.
Alandio, Alande, me say, Alandio, Alande.
Adebe Alande.
Ghana Pay Alande.
Hey, finally! Ghana Pay Alande.
Do more your way on Ghana Pay. Send and receive money at zero transaction fees. Pay bills, buy airtime and data. Transfer money in and out of your bank account and so much more with Ghana Pay. Dial *707# to register for Ghana Pay or download the Ghana Pay app from the Play Store or App Store.
Alande. Ghana Pay Alande.
Ghana Pay. Your money, your way.
This service is powered by Gibbs.
Allianz, insurance since 1890. At Allianz Life Ghana, we have a wide range of life insurance packages to suit all pockets, from individuals, groups, associations, and businesses. We cover your employees, your funerals, pensions, children's education, and your future. Call us on 0302-267-892 or visit our website www.allianz-gh.com for more inquiries. Allianz Life, we secure your future.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, government has increased the price at which it will be buying every 64 kilo bag of cocoa beans from farmers in the country. According to government, it will be paying the farmers 800 Ghana cedis for every bag from October 14 this year to September next year. Now, speaking at the press conference, Minister for Agric, Dr. Osei Friakoto, said the cedi's depreciation against the dollar prevented government from increasing the amount beyond the 20% target.
The recent increase in prices in Cote d'Ivoire translates into 858 cedis per kilogram, per bag. Okay, with this announcement, we are getting 800. So the difference between us and them is not that great. And this is the first time that the Ivorian price has been higher than ours. And it's all because of the sharp deterioration in our currency. As you know, the cedi has depreciated by 40% since January.
Minister for Agric, Dr. Osei Friakoto, now Ghana's 800 Ghana cedis per 64 kilo bag is still lower than the 851 Ghana cedis that Ivory Coast to be paying its farmers, with some fear it could result in some smuggling. Now, the Ghana cedi has depreciated by some 60% against the US dollar from the beginning of this year. Now, that's according to the latest Africa Pulse report released by the World Bank. But what is the bank saying about the outlook for the local currency? There is more in this report.
The World Bank in its report noted that the 60% rate of depreciation against the dollar from the beginning of this year makes it the worst performing currency in Africa. It was followed by South Sudan with a rate of 50.8%, Sudan with 28.6%, Malawi with 25.4%, and the CFA franc, which has a year-to-date depreciation of 13.3%. World Bank noted that the cedi's sharp depreciation can be linked to the rising debt stock, widening deficit, and the rising inflation. The Washington, D.C.-based development institution noted that Ghana's limited access to forex or borrowing on the international market, which had in the past been the major support, is a major contributing factor to the current challenge being faced by the local currency. The current challenge with the cedi is also being linked to the rising inflation. The development has increased the cost of doing business as well as the cost of living in the country. Meanwhile, the World Bank is also warning that Ghana's budget deficit could widen to about 5.8% this year before narrowing slightly to 5.2% in 2024. The deterioration in the current account balance is consistent with a combination of skyrocketing import bills and the fall of the cedi.
And that is a business desk report. Meanwhile, in a separate story, economist with IC Securities, Courage Mate, is worried about the more negative investor reaction to the economy in the coming days. Now, this was after the World Bank, in its latest Africa report, warned that Ghana's debt-to-GDP ratio will hit 104.6% by the end of this year. Mr. Mate notes that the development might result in some tough measures being taken by government to deal with the situation.
But what this also means is that it is going to translate into painful adjustment for every sector of the economy. I mean, if you've been used to expansionary fiscal policy for 2 consecutive years, which is threatening debt sustainability, and you have to adjust with austerity, the consequences and the implications would be very painful, both from imposing taxation or taxes on the population, and as well as reducing the amount of government we spend on certain sectors that used to benefit from government flows and expenditure. And businesses could also start to endure slowdown in activity and profit. So overall, we would have to face the music of austerity, and the government would have to take the lead in this direction.
Courage Mate is an economist with IC Securities. Now, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries have cut daily production output by 2 million barrels. The move is seen as a strategy to check the declining prices of crude oil over the past week, which is rolling between $70 and $80 a barrel. Now, this could be bad news for consumers locally because you could see prices at the pumps going up because of this move. Now, sustained approach in dealing with financial literacy is key to growth for the capital market due to the current economic challenges. That's according to the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Daniel Ogbamitete. He was speaking at the Ghana Stock Exchange 2022 Ring the Bell for Financial Literacy Program.
The issue of investor education or financial literacy must be sustained. It mustn't be restricted or limited to an event. For instance, it's nice to have this event, Ring the Bell. It's nice to have the Capital Market Week, which I believe will be coming back, Winston Jr. But beyond having events, we must have a sustained approach to achieving knowledge, awareness about the financial market, how it operates, and all of that. So it must be sustained.
Reverend Daniel Ogbamitete is the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, Deputy Minister of Works and Housing, Abdullahi Abanga, has called on stakeholders in the building and construction sector to employ green technology as solutions in solving the country's housing challenges. He said this at the launch of the 2022 Ghana Green Building Summit.
And as the policymakers, developers, and built environment practitioners, this obviously calls for the need to collectively contemplate on alternative ways by which our buildings could optimize water conservation, recirculation, and reuse towards achieving water efficiency, particularly in our cities. Similarly, we need to embrace upon innovative technologies towards developing smarter cities that are hinged on clean and sustainable energy options, such as renewable energy solutions. Our ministry has also initiated the process to establish the Ghana Housing Authority, which will have the mandate to regulate, plan, develop, and manage housing development in Ghana.
Abdullahi Abanga is the Deputy Minister for Works and Housing. Now, as part of the 2022 World Habitat Day celebration, cities and habitat developers of Plan Cities Extension Project and EcoBank Ghana have partnered to launch the new home ownership package called Rent to Own Boafo Home Ownership Package. According to the project manager Daniel Edu, the project will help home seekers to fast-track access to their homes with the help of EcoBank. He spoke to Joy Business at the launch of the project.
And our product, which we call the Boafo Rent to Own Boafo Package, Rent to Own Boafo Package, with the support or with the partnership of EcoBank. Basically, it's going to help people, and many people for that matter, to own or access their houses, much earlier. So you want to do the rent to own, the monthly payments, but you want your house early because, you are very tight. And EcoBank is also there to assist. But what we are saying is that in order to be able to help you to do that, we can give you, for the 20%, give you 15% discount of that 20% that you need before you get the house.
Daniel Edu is the project manager for Cities and Habitats. And that's all for Business on Newsnight.
Thank you very much, George.
Emefa.
Thank you so much for business, and wipe that smile off your face. But let me do some of your messages that you've sent in so far. And this one says, I passed by the wager side this morning and my heart was drenched in a flood of sadness. It is just too bad. I pray God helps all. But for the Galamsey, no one should. Okay, he says the president was not truthful with us. Why he's still... Okay, well, Seneca Awule at Spaintex says, could it be that we all sat and watched citizens to build so close to the Dainsu River? They even diverted their sewage into the river. Now nature has taken its course. So what should we do after this to avoid future disaster? Nana on the Spaintex Road sent that one in. Charles Edu from Gomwa German says the Menchia meeting with the chiefs is over. It's time to translate into actual practice the theories and idea that they've arrived at, showing how the ideal and practical will act and react one upon the other, he says. Now, this one from Francis says, another talk shop by our president, 6 years on, no show. Please tell them to act and not to talk, he says. Lambong from Bolgatanga says, I believe President's comment on the issue of Galamsey is just his usual anthem and nothing else, and he cannot be considered serious anymore, he says. And we have another one talking about our debt distress situation as put out by the World Bank today, all the way down there. And he says, 3 words best describe our political elites: mediocre, myopic, and misguided. Ghana's own Ghana deserves better than both NPP and NDC, period, he adds. And this one from Afeti in East Legon, what is Akufo-Addo crying for? When he was clearing the Galamsey officials who were caught in camera, didn't he know this would be the outcome? He should stop wasting our ears, he says. And we have more of your messages. Wolanyo Inakwetia, you sent this one, and it's all the way down. He says, I think the president just put his presidency on the line and may later on regret to say that because he met some group of people in Jubilee House and told them emphatically that he's going to put new energy in the fight. And you add the hashtag no to Galamsey. It's a hashtag that you all should join in. And I see your messages also on the Sake Breast in October. Efo in Jelukofe, interesting message there that you have sent me. But many messages waiting for that particular story. But let's talk about it since you're eager to hear about it. Question: what does breast cancer and breast sucking and breast cancer have in common? And a lot, according to health experts and CEO of Chatma Herbal Center, Dr. Charity Chumesi-Ankra. She says breast sucking is a major way to help cure breast cancer in women, adding it is very important for a woman's breast to be sucked as it keeps the breast healthier. Now, as breast cancer awareness is being marked throughout this month of October, Dr. Chumesi-Ankra is urging men to do their bit by sucking a breast. Listen.
Then for men, sucking the breast is also very important. It helps. It helps, you know. And then some men, I don't know whether they are too religious or too holy-co, I don't know. Some feel that when you do these things and like you have sinned, I don't know, why should I suck a breast? Minya kwala, minya baby, you know, that kind of thing. But I keep telling people that when it comes to breast sucking, men are good at it because they suck breast right from nge to when they die. You know, so we are used to it. It's going to help women a lot if you help them. Even if you haven't done it before. For this month of October, where we have breast cancer awareness, try to suck a breast.
Interesting. And I see that some of you are even sending me Bible quotations. And it appears that that particular artwork is the most shared artwork so far. And someone sends me a Bible quotation, Proverbs 18-19 says, let thy fountain be blessed and rejoice with the wife of their youth. Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times and be thou ravished always with her love. Interesting. And that's how we wrap up tonight's edition of News Night. And Enimwa Enimado and the team, they are up next. Enimwa, they say we should suck breast.
They didn't say we should suck
they said
breast.
they
said
should.
Our breastises should be sucked. So yeah.
So you're ready.
So we were talking about who is paying the bills.
Should be both.
If
you are sucking, then you should pay. Pay all the bills.
But tonight we're having a conversation on finances and relationships. So really, who should be fitting the bills and what bills, and of course the effect that money has on a relationship.
It's a shared responsibility, I believe.
So they say. So stay tuned. Strong and Sassy is coming up next. Bye, MFR.
Bye.